Shalom, and welcome to Shmuel's Views Toward Observant Judaism. I am your host, Shmuel ben Shlomi. I want to welcome you. And I want to invite you to find us on YouTube and in Rumble. You can find all of our videos at those two locations, as well as our website, Shmuel's Views Toward Observant Judaism. We can also be found on our locals channel, again called Shmuel's Views. We're pretty consistent there. And across social media and places like Getter, Parler, Shabbat.com, one of my favorite places, Truth Social, Twitter, as I mentioned earlier, Locals, and Unified. Today, I want to talk about Noah, because we're in the Parsha, Noah, and there are two people in the Jewish Bible that came on the scene very early during the time of humanity's development of civilizations who were called righteous in the eyes of HaShem. The first came very early on and lived many, many millennia ago, likely well over 12,000 years ago. The other person lived approximately 4,000 years ago. Both probably originally lived in roughly the same area, the land the Bible calls Shinar, and by the rest of the world it is known as Sumeria, or modern-day Iraq and Iran, in that area. This first man was named Noah. He lived in the period of what was, in his day, the pinnacle of more than likely the very first human civilization, perhaps the fabled Atlantis or Lemuria. These two ancient continent civilizations have been as much a part of human consciousness as those great civilizations that came after them, including that of the other man, Avraham, who will be coming into the picture in the next parsha of study. But Noah and Abraham were called righteous, men who lived lives in right standing within the revealed ways of will of HaShem, the one true God of creation. HaShem did add one disclaimer, however, on this righteousness title for Noah. It can be found in Genesis 6:9, which states, Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his age. Noah walked with God. No such disclaimer was made for Abraham. He would have been righteous in Hashem's eyes, regardless of the era or age he lived in. A cataclysm was going to embrace planet Earth, destroying every living thing on it, man, animal, insects, and plant life. The only thing that would survive would be two of every kind of water creatures. Nothing was going to be able to stop what was coming except Hashem. And because, with the exception of Noah, every other person on earth was considered evil and wicked in the sight of God, he would use this event to cleanse the planet, wipe the slate clean, and begin anew with Noah and his family. Imagine the depths the human race must have fallen when even children and infants were not considered worthy of God's favor and deliverance. Genesis 6:11 says the earth had become corrupt before God. The earth was filled with lawlessness. The Hebrew word translated as corrupt literally means damaged beyond repair due to lawlessness, which in the original Hebrew means extremely violent. So all humanity had become so damaged and full of violence, with the exception of Noah and his family, that Hashem saw the only hope for his pinnacle of creation, humanity, would be another reset, somewhat like what may have happened between verses 1 and 2 of Genesis chapter 1. You can see my comments on Parshat Bereshit, or the Parsha of Genesis. I'll have it listed below in the description of this video. So Hashem decides to reset the clock for humanity by allowing a natural destructive force to happen on earth that would cause total upheaval, leaving nothing alive except this special man and his family. Noah is instructed to build an ark that would seal him, his family, and certain types of animal, fowl, and insect life inside, because a flood of unimaginable proportions was going to overtake the earth and all who lived upon it. Now, do we know what caused the massive deluge? Genesis tells us that the fountains of the deep were rent open, causing not only water beneath the earth to gush forth, but it would also mean unimaginable lava rose up as well. Earthquakes would have been worldwide, causing intolerable shaking, gas venting, making it near impossible to breathe, and it rained in blinding sheets of water, ash, pumice, and smoke for a full 40 days and nights. The destruction was so great that in our collective memories, that same kind of story has been passed down, first orally, and then written as far back and across every culture. The names of the heroes may differ. In Sumerian cuneiform text of the Epic of Gilgamesh, he is called Utanapishtim. In the Babylonian story of creation, the Enuma Elish, the name of the flood hero is Atrahasis, and the Akkadians called him Ziusudra. In ancient Egypt, the flood happened as a result of a battle of the god Osiris and the serpent Tiamat, known as Tehom in the Hebrew Bible. There are differences in names, places, and times, but the basic storyline of a great flood, a great deluge covering the earth, with one or more survivors on a boat or a submarine, remains pretty much intact. Be it in the Middle, Near, and Far East, the Caucasus, Europe, African continent, the ancient societies in North, Central, and South America, or the Aboriginal tribes in Australia and New Zealand, the basics of a destructive flood remain the same. For many years, since the birth of the age of enlightenment in science, beginning around the late 17th to early 18th century CE, in its effort to place anything biblical into the category of myth, folklore, and wild tales told by primitives sitting around fires and caves, the whole idea of a worldwide deluge was outright rejected. However, over the past 100 years, with the development of finely tuned instrumentation, repeatable results, research, on-site investigation, and with the gaining of knowledge of the earth sciences and the astronomical effects on Earth, many professional scientists in the field of geology, archaeology, anthropology, and astronomy, and more have come to accept that there was a time in Earth's distant past where it underwent a massive climatic change and sudden upheaval that was likely caused by a huge influx of water, lava, and tectonic eruption. While science may differ as to what caused such an event, they are more and more coming to the agreement that the story of Genesis and other ancient writings about a worldwide deluge did likely occur. Briefly, science now concludes that there are two likely scenarios for the cause of the flood. One, the Earth was hit by a major comet impact, followed by a series of large to medium-sized asteroid and ice fragment hits, causing heat in the atmosphere to rise significantly enough to melt the Arctic polar and Antarctica ice caps, inundating the planet with a wall of water of tremendous height and growing larger in all directions as it picked up speed, drowning out everything in its path. The impact would have caused earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tectonic shifts not ever seen before in human experience, killing everything in its vicinity. Number two, a slow but inevitable rise in climate temperature caused an ice plate the size of the state of New Hampshire to break off in Antarctica, causing a massive tsunami that reached at least 1,000 feet high by the time it reached the southern tip of South America and Australia, only getting larger and more spread out as it headed north, finally topping even the highest peaks on all continents. We may never know for sure, but since, as insurance companies are fond of declaring, coverage for acts of God in every policy contract, we too can call whatever occurred just such an act. It takes Noah 120 years to build the ark to HaShem's specifications. While it doesn't say so in the Torah, he may have spent some of that time going about the planet warning people of the danger to come in hopes they would turn away from their corrupt, violent, and evil ways. Perhaps he didn't. We will never know. And that leads me to my comparison to that other righteous man we will meet up with in the next Parsha, Avraham. What was the most major difference between Noah and Avraham? Both were righteous in the sight of HaShem. Noah was when compared to his own generation, and Avraham was when compared to every generation of all those that came before him and all those that would follow right up to our own day. What made that important distinction between these two giants of righteousness? Well, when HaShem let Noah in on the fact of the upcoming destructive forces that would plague the earth, as far as we know, he simply listened to HaShem, took the next 120 years building the ark and stocking it with all that would be needed for he and his family and all the animals to survive during the deluge and after, until they would be able to disembark, reclaim the earth, and begin the process of agriculture and husbandry again to sustain them and all that survived on the ark. However, when HaShem told Abraham what he planned in store for the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and the other towns in the valley of Siddim, the Jordan Valley, what did Abraham do? Did he just say, "Okay, my Lord, is there anything I can do? Would you like me to say a prayer for those folks before they meet their demise?" No. Abraham took HaShem aside. Can you imagine that? Took HaShem aside and pleaded for the lives of those living in the valley, even though their wickedness was so very great. He even began to bargain. Think of this. He had such a magnificently close relationship with the God of all creation that he began to bargain with HaShem, asking him to spare the entire area if only 50 righteous could be located within and without the walls of those cities and towns. Realizing just how evil those human beings had become, Abraham still had compassion on them and bargained HaShem all the way down to if just 10 righteous could be located. 10 out of hundreds, perhaps thousands. HaShem, seeing the humility, love, and compassion in the heart of his truly righteous servant, relented and agreed to save the entire area, all of its cities, towns, villages, and enclaves, if just 10 righteous souls could be found. Sadly, apart from Lot and his 2 daughters, none others could be found by the heavenly messengers. 3 were spared, and everyone else was eliminated in a fireball of misery and destruction, leaving what was once a lush valley of vegetation and an inland freshwater lake into a desolate, uninhabitable area with a Dead Sea that not even fish or the minuteness of life could live in. It is only now, some 4,000 years later, that the area around the valley of Siddim is starting to sprout life again, Baruch HaShem. The Dead Sea is beginning to naturally become more desalinated with signs of life returning to it. The one difference between these 2 men and Abraham is that Abraham loved humanity so much that he was willing to plead for them, for God to continue to be patient with them, that they might come to their senses and be spared the destruction. As far as we know, at least from the biblical text in Genesis, Noah was obedient. He loved HaShem, but he may not have held that same regard for his fellows. As wicked as they were still human beings made in the image and likeness of HaShem and worthy of at least a plea for mercy. Well, Baruch HaShem, there's going to be another, I'm going to continue with this theme with Noah in our next video. Until we do, though, I would like to ask, I'm going to give some recommendations of people I would love that I visit frequently. And I know I'm old, but over the years I've learned a lot from these people. And, there's a couple new ones on the list that you may or may not have ever heard of. But I want to recommend these people for you to check out, if you don't mind. And the links to their YouTube channels or their locals channels or whatever, wherever they're located, I'll have for you down in the description below. So be sure to check that out. And those are Rabbi Tovia Singer, Rabbi Manis Friedman, the Rubin Report with Dave Rubin, and a gentleman I've only recently come to start interestingly watching. I find him an interesting character with a very, very interesting background. His name is Eli Weber, and he goes by the handle Kabbalah Guru. And he's interesting, if somewhat cryptic fellow. And I do enjoy listening to him and getting a look at the world from his unique background and his Hasidism. So once again, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and that's for both YouTube and Rumble. And also hit that notification bell so that you can get our videos, get notified, get contacted when we post new videos. And any comments you want to leave, I appreciate that. You can visit our website, our locals community, which, like I said, the links will be down below for those. You can also contact us via email if you want to ask questions, make comments, suggestions, whatever. Not only the comments below here, but you can also contact us with our email address, and that is shmoo, S-H-M-U, shmoo, at startmail.com. Until next time, may you have a blessed day, and Baruch HaShem, shalom to you. Bye-bye.